Hi, boys and girls. My name is Ashley Gardner. I'm the Director of Children's Ministries at MLEPC. And this is my oldest son. What's your name? Nathaniel. And this is my youngest son. What's your name? Theo. And we are coming at you today to read another Bible story out of our favorite little kids Bible, which is the Jesus Storybook Bible.
Now we're going to do the 10,000 people.
Okay, so
5,000
not 10,000, 5,000 people. So our story today has 5,000 people. Is that a lot of people? It's a whole lot of people. So in preparation for our story, we like to try to act it out or use toys. So we needed 5,000 people. So we went all over our house trying to gather up any single little play person toy that we could get. I said we couldn't use any animals, but any single play toy. So we have soldiers, we have firefighters, we have princesses, we have Captain America. So let's just say it's probably not actually biblically accurate for this crowd of 5,000, but we tried to get as many as we could, and let me tell you, we are nowhere near 5,000. Do you think there's 5,000? No, way less. So when you're watching our Bible story today, remember this crowd was so much bigger than what we have, but we did our best. And these 5,000 people, who did they come to see?
Jesus.
They came to Jesus to be healed, to hear his teaching, and they were listening to him for a really long time. And it got so late that all of their tummies started to rumble because they were what?
Hungry.
What were they? If your tummy is rumbling, what does that mean you are? Hungry. In our story today, Jesus uses bread in a very special way. He uses 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish in a crazy miracle to feed 5,000 people. So we're gonna read about it in the Jesus Storybook Bible, and I hope you guys join along. The story today is called Filled Full. So let's follow along and see what happens. There were once 5,000 tired and hungry and probably very grumpy people sitting on a hillside wanting their dinner. They'd come to hear Jesus that day. They came before breakfast, stayed all morning, all afternoon, and way past dinner. No one had meant to be out there that long, but that's how it was listening to Jesus, as if time didn't exist. People could listen to Jesus for hours, and on this particular day, that's just what they did. But they hadn't brought enough food, and they couldn't just go and buy themselves a burger and fries to go, because of course they were in the middle of nowhere, with no shops or restaurants. Besides, that kind of food wasn't invented yet. What would they do? Jesus' friends had an idea. What was their idea?
Miracle.
Do you think that was their idea?
Yeah.
Did Jesus' friends say, Jesus, please perform a miracle? Is that what they said? No, their bright idea was, let's send everyone home for dinner. Would that have been too nice? They didn't have food to feed them though. They were just trying to help. So they had no solution other than to send them away. They don't need to go, Jesus said. You can give them something to eat. Did they have food with them?
What?
No, not enough. Did Jesus want them to travel all the way to town and buy food for everyone? Jesus' friends panicked. But we don't have enough money. What food do you have? Jesus asked. Go and see. Now, there was a little boy in the crowd. He had brought a lunch that his mother had made for him that morning. He looked at his, how many loaves of bread? How many?
5.
5 loaves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loaves. And how many fish?
2 fish.
And 2 fish. It wasn't much, not nearly enough for 5,000, but it's all he had. I have some, he said. Jesus' friends laughed when they saw this little lunch. That's not nearly enough, they said. But they were wrong. Jesus knew it didn't matter how much the little boy had. God would make it enough, more than enough. Jesus said, "Bring me what you have." And so the little boy gave Jesus his lunch. Jesus winked at the little boy and whispered in his ear, "Watch." What do you think he's gonna do?
Make it a whole bunch.
Do you think he's gonna make it into a whole bunch? Okay, let's see. How in the world will Jesus feed everyone with just that? Jesus' friends said, because they thought it was impossible. But Jesus knew the one who made all the fish in the oceans. And Jesus knew the one who in the very beginning had made everything out of nothing at all. How hard would something like this be for someone like that? Jesus took the little boy's lunch, looked up to heaven, and thanked his Father. Then Jesus gave the little lunch back to his friends. As Jesus' friends started to hand out the food, do you know what? It was the strangest thing. No matter how much they broke off, there was always more. Enough for 5,000. Everyone ate as much as they wanted. Second helpings, third helpings, even fourths, until they were full. And still there were more. There was leftovers. Well, Jesus did many miracles like this. Things people thought couldn't happen, that weren't natural. But it was the most natural thing in all the world. It's what God had been doing from the beginning. Of course, taking the nothing and making it everything. Taking the emptiness and filling it up. Taking the darkness and making it light. What do you think of that?
Good.
When Mommy was in high school, Mommy went on a mission trip. That's where I went on a trip to go and help some other people who were in need. And I went to a place called Ecuador. If you looked at the globe, we have the United States, and then below that, there is a continent a little ways below that called South America, and Ecuador is in South America. And when I was there, we divided up into a bunch of different mission groups. We had 30 girls go with each of these different groups, and we would go and do Bible stories. We would act out Bible stories and tell people about Jesus, and people would give their lives to Jesus. They would start following him. Well, one of the mission groups that was going, one of the groups of 30 girls, was going to a really remote village that was far away from everything. They didn't have electricity, they didn't have running water, and it was a really, really poor village. One of their translators in that group actually lived in this village. Every day, when the mission groups would go out, they would pack lunch for them. And what they would make them for lunch every day was they would use bread like this, and they would make them peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. You guys have had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, right? I think you had some yesterday, actually. Well, they made enough for every girl to have one peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and they packed a few extras. So they had maybe 30 or 40, probably around 40 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and a couple bags just like this, and we would take them and go to these different sites. Well, the one day when this group of 30 girls went to this rural, remote village, they had their sandwiches with them, and they had to actually walk up a really high mountain to get there. It took them a while to do it. I think it was actually a couple miles. And when they finally got to the top in this remote village where the translator lived, they did the drama while they were there. They told people about Jesus. People gave their life to Jesus. They actually had a miracle happen with the translator's mom. The translator's mother was mute. Do you know what it means to be mute?
No.
It means you can't use your what?
No.
Your mouth. You can't speak. She was not able to speak at all. And this woman was suddenly able to speak. And she started praying to Jesus. And the people that could understand that language, that understood Spanish, said it was the most beautiful prayer they'd ever heard in their entire lives. So it was amazing. God was clearly working. After they did their drama, they acted out the Bible story, they had this woman be healed and she was able to speak, the group was going to eat lunch. But remember, the people in this village were really poor. They didn't have a lot of money, they didn't have a lot of food, and the group felt that if they were going to eat their food, they thought they needed to share it with everyone else. There was a crowd of about 250 people watching this play. How many peanut butter and jelly sandwiches did I say they had?
30,000?
Not 30,000, between 30 and 40. And so what they did was they decided they were going to trust God and they were going to feed the people however much they could. So they took the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, they prayed over them and prayed that God would bless the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, bless the people, and that he would provide. So they opened them up and they started passing them out. And they passed them out and they passed them out and they passed them out and they passed them out. And they looked around and all of a sudden they noticed something really weird. They still were passing out the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but as they looked around, every single person was eating and they were all fed. And so they started walking around saying, does anyone else need a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Is anyone else still hungry? And every single person was fed. So they didn't have enough to feed everyone. They only had around maybe 40 sandwiches, and there was probably 250 people there, and every single person was fed. God took those sandwiches and he multiplied them. He made them more. It wasn't nearly as great of a miracle as what happened.
Were you in the...
I wasn't in that group, but I heard about it that night. There was people on our trip that were in that group. So he didn't feed 5,000, but he fed that smaller group, but he did the exact same thing. Just like that day, for that group of 5,000, he multiplied the food. He did the same thing with our mission group. He did the same thing with that village. This is so important for right now. I think it's a really good reminder to us that God is the one that provides. There are so many adults right now, so many parents that don't have jobs anymore. And those parents might be getting scared how they're going to provide food for their family, how they're going to pay for their houses, how they're going to buy clothes for their kids for the fall, and even what life is going to look like. But what this story reminds us of is God is the one that provides. He is the one.
And provide for Christmas.
And provide for Christmas. That's a long way off still. But God is the one that provides. God is the one that has the heavenly storehouses. He's the one that created everything. That he is the one that makes food. He is the one that provides for our needs. And we need to trust that when times get tough, that he can multiply. He can give us what we need. We need to be trusting in him. Nathaniel, it is important. What were you just doing with your hands? What kind of hands were you making? Prayer hands. Yeah. We do need to be praying to God. We need to be asking God to help. We need to be asking God to provide for us. Some of us, this might be the first time where I'm actually even having to think about that, to worry about that a little bit. And what I want to tell you guys is to not worry, to trust that God provides, that he's still the God that provides food, that provides shelter, that provides clothing, and that we're not supposed to worry. We're supposed to pray to God, to ask him for help, but not to worry. So I hope this once again was encouraging for you guys. I love you guys. I miss you, and trust that God is in control. Have a great day, boys and girls, and I'll be talking to you again soon. Bye.
Bye.